people act a certain way when there's a helicopter around and there's cops everywhere. It's the guy that with his head down and his hood on that's just staring straight ahead walking down the street. That's probably the bad guy.
Let's introduce our next guest, Mike Putnam. Mike, you're still working law enforcement, so we'll leave out where you work. People can figure it out for themselves, I'm sure. But large Northern California Sheriff's Department here in the region where we're doing this at. So
Yes.
Ton of experience, and we'll let you kind of share what your background is in law enforcement. But the things that stand out to me, I've worked with you in K-9, and now you're currently in Air Ops, which is primarily what we're going to be doing this episode on. But I do want to say, for everybody that watches this, there are a lot of people that do watch this show who are not cops. I do think they're going to find this very fascinating because everybody knows of police helicopters and, or the ghetto bird. Nobody really knows the intricacy of really what goes on in the cockpit of a police helicopter. In fact, I would argue most cops don't know what goes on in the cockpit of a police helicopter unless you've done a fly along.
Yeah, true.
Which we both have. And so just hearing about it, hearing what your guys' role is, what you do, it's super fascinating when we're out hunting bad guys down. And so really you guys are the tactical quarterback of any major event that's going on. I mean, the boots on the ground, whether it's SWAT, patrol, K-9, when something really bad is happening and you guys are up there, you guys are oftentimes calling the shots because you get such a good overview of what's going on and where to plug people.
Yeah.
So if you think about that, you've been involved in some pretty serious situations, and so have we on the ground. That's a huge responsibility when people are listening to you to do what you say and plugging them in place for a better, I guess, outcome of a bad situation. So that's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
We're going to get into all of that. I can't wait. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, when you started law enforcement, the specialties you've held, and then really what you're doing now.
I do appreciate your facial expression right now because you're just like, when am I going to talk?
Is that dude, I feel like that was a solid
waiting.
intro.
Yeah,
That
it was.
If you run that through,
dude. If you run that through Chat GTP and you say cut this in half, it would take a second to do that.
Maybe I will.
No, it was good. It was a solid. I just appreciate your face.
Dude, I'm
You're
trying to lay
come
the
on.
foundation of dude, if you're in Air Ops, I don't care what you do in law enforcement. This episode is worth listening to.
Oh yeah, I do appreciate your Dan Chip movement.
Yeah, you like
we
that?
just
Yeah.
noticed that.
Yeah. Be married to the microphone.
Yeah.
Be one.
All right, Mike, you got
Full
the mic. Go.
Floor's yours.
So experience, I went to the academy started the academy December of 2002. Went to the daytime academy, 6 months long, graduated in May of 2003. That sent me straight to patrol training. So from May to August, I was in patrol training as a brand new deputy. Just very little life experience, 25 years old. Was like, this situation sucks. Somebody ought to call the cops. And I was like, well, it turns out I am the cop.
Yeah. What do I do?
Yeah, exactly. So that was an eye-opening experience, which was a lot of fun. And then after that was assigned to our main jail. So worked the jail on a graveyard shift for 4 years. And then at that time, a couple of our cities that are within the county were branching out on their own and sending bodies back to the jail that had been contract with the county. So that kind of knocked me down our patrol rotation list a little bit, which sent some of us to stay longer in the jail. And then that was in 2007, went out to patrol, went to a graveyard shift in the south area of our county. That was the moon to me. I had never been south of the river as a kid from the north area. So I didn't even know where the station was when I started. It was a great experience working with some very seasoned guys that were willing to take you under their wing and show you the way to do things and tell you if you did something wrong. They had no qualms about taking you out in the parking lot after your shift and letting you know what you did wrong. As long as you didn't do it again, it was a learning experience and you moved on. And it was an amazing experience. Budget problems in 2009 sent me back to the jail. Did another year and 4 months or so in the jail. Our county department took a pretty good hit with about 100 plus layoffs of full-time deputies. I was fortunate to have enough seniority to keep my job. It just sent me back to the jail. Got to work with all the same guys again that I had worked with the first time, had great supervisors, So we kind of didn't miss a beat as we got back to work. With some grants and some other things that came along, we were able to go back to patrol. Went back to patrol in 2009, and then went back to patrol in 2010, and then was in patrol. I went to worked our north area on swing shift, and then in 2013 I got selected to become a patrol canine handler. So I did canine from 2013 to 2017. And then in 2017, I was selected to be a tactical flight officer in our Air Ops unit. And so from 2017 to present, I'm still in our Air Ops unit. In 2021, I got the opportunity to become a pilot. So I started all the training in 2021 and have since completed pilot training, commercial rated, and then now I'm the pilot. So just switch seats and essentially doing the same job, but flying the aircraft as opposed to doing all the cop work in the seat.
Yes, it sounds like the same work. One's flying the helicopter, the other guy's just sitting there with his life in the pilot's hands. So a little different. But real quick, I want to mention that for those of you who don't know, we started our training group, Shots Fired Training Group, and you can go to shotsfiredtraininggroup.com. We do have a slew of classes that we've already put together with several different very credible instructors on there. So if you'd like to host a class, you can pick one, host it. We'll come to you free of charge. But we've also added Mike to that roster, teaching a apprehending fleeing suspects class, which is highly sought after, covers really what this whole podcast is going to be about. But great class, super stoked to have you a part of that, teaching that class for us. It's
excited to be a part of it.
I've been to it a couple times, and from a patrol guy, a canine guy, a patrol guy, all the way up to anybody in Air Ops, like the class is just absolutely phenomenal, covering containment, perimeters, how to search for suspects behavior, where do suspects hide, all of those things. And so if you're interested in that class and having Mike come teach it, make sure you go to shotsfiredtraininggroup.com, request it, and we will ship this handsome fella.
Yeah, we'll put you to work, Mike. We also have other classes going right now too. We have some that are scheduled in Folsom, California, Chico, California. Yeah. We have one in Utah. And then we're working on Arizona and then pushing to the East Coast as well. So all you got to do is go to shotsfiredtraininggroup.com and request a class, fill out that form, and we can bring the class right to you, whichever one you want. We got a ton of classes out there.
We're going to keep you busy, dude.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah. We're excited. That's a great class, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, everybody can learn from it.
It is a great class. And like you said, having been to it myself more than once and seeing it when I've had different assignments and in different capacities, have always taken something away from it, even though some of the similar material in those classes that we sat through, being a brand new patrol guy, watching it, getting the information from it, then being a canine handler and seeing it from that perspective, and then seeing it from an Air Ops perspective, you always take something away from it that is a different focus of whatever assignment you're in, which has been great and beneficial.
So you started in before Air Ops, you were in K9. That's where I met you, and you probably don't remember this, but I was in I became a dog handler in 2014. At that time, at my department, a lot of the older senior guys were trickling out of the unit. Some promoted, some went to other agencies, and so really, I felt like I became the senior guy on the team within a year, and you did help me out a lot. You came out to a lot of my searches. You guys invited me out to your searches and let me get my own experience in. So I'm super grateful for that. But that's how you and I ended up meeting. How did K9 really, I guess, skyrocket you to be a really good tactical flight officer? Like, how do those two correlate? I mean,
I think they're extremely similar as far as the tactics that you pay attention to, the not only the behavior of the suspects, searching techniques, perimeters are huge because if the good perimeters don't start with the patrol guys, a canine, no matter how good your dog is, he's not going to find the guy if he's not there. And so if he's not contained by a quick, well-established perimeter, the dog is just going for a walk. And same with the helicopter. Unless we are right over something, it's, we fly relatively fast, but it's going to take us several minutes to get somewhere. So we are there when most of the time, a majority of the time, the guy is already hunkered down, hiding somewhere. He's not still actively fleeing or running, not easy to see for us. So by establishing that quick perimeter, That's huge to the success of finding people. And by having been a canine handler and seeing those pursuits or those perimeters develop, and then taking those same, ideas or same tactics, searching a backyard with a camera as opposed to a dog, it's very similar.
Well, you take your experience as a canine handler, and when you're on scene, everybody looks at you as you are in charge. I mean, I know that when I worked in patrol and canine showed up, like both of you guys are handlers, like you're in charge. You call the shots, like you determine what's happening, you coordinate everything. So you're saying that translates over to being a TFO.
It does. It does. And a lot of times on calls like that where a perimeter is established and we're going to be doing a yard-to-yard search, whether it's just a canine handler and a couple cover guys and a helicopter, or if it's a dynamic SWAT search where you're going to have a bigger team because we're going after somebody that's potentially armed or more dangerous. The direct communication is with those canine handlers and the air unit.
Yeah.
And so we are communicating directly with one another and then directing and moving those pieces of whether it's patrol units to different patrol spots or establishing different positions or resources that we're going to need. A lot of times when we get on a scene, I can see the big picture as opposed to just seeing, the street or 1 yard. So if it's going to go extended, if it's a barricaded situation, I can see a good spot to potentially put a command post. Hey, there's an empty parking lot of a church over here, or there's a school right there and we know the janitor and he can unlock the door for the bathroom. Or don't have fire come this way because there's too many patrol cars, have fire come around this way and stage down the street. Those things, our job as a flight officer especially is to think 5, 6, 10 steps ahead of those patrol guys, because we know potentially what they're going to need down the line. It's not stressful for us. I'm in an air-conditioned helicopter watching essentially a movie on the computer screen, right? So I'm not getting shot at. I'm not driving 100 miles an hour. So we have the ability to, hey, they're going to need this in 3 more steps from now. They're going to need this. Let's consider doing this. Guys on a roof, we're going to need a ladder. Hey, start fire. Simple stuff that, yeah, they'll probably think of it, and we're not saying they're not going to, but our job is to take work away from those patrol guys, taking work away from the canine handlers, to make their workload saturation less. And so the more things that we can establish and get done and suggest sooner is the better. That way they can focus on the dangerous stuff and stay focused on what they're doing.
So putting yourself back as a canine handler, I know there's gonna be a ton of canine guys that listen to this. What were some things that you learned? Because I can think of things off the top of my head that you learned in canine, and then maybe something where you start to develop really good suspect behavior trends when you're a dog handler, because you just do, that's all you do is you're just searching for bad guys who run from the cops all the time or are hiding or whatever. What are some of the trends that you started to notice, or that you picked up on to make you a better canine handler, but then also were able to translate over to being a TFO?
Yeah, they're kind of evolving for sure, and I think they continue to evolve in what suspects learn and what they do as well. As a canine handler, it was a lot of times, and there's been all the studies, right? Oh, they break contact from line of sight with the patrol guy that's chasing them. They make 2 rights and a left, and they hunker down. And that was true a lot of times. A lot of times the most important information that we got as a canine handler is, all right, when you last saw this guy when he was running, was he a track star? Was he bounding fences, or was he gassed out? Was he tired? Did he look like he was trying to look for a place to hide, or was he going to run for another half mile?
That's actually a really good point. And this is the first time I've ever actually heard that. I've kind of thought of some things, but that is a really good thing to actually put out on the radio. I think, hey, this guy is actually very fast and he's hitting these fences like nothing, or not moving too quick, really struggling to hit fences. I'm glad you said that, because that really changes how far somebody can get.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the things in canine as well as air now. But where was the last physical place you saw this person running or standing? Not where you were when you saw him, but where was the bad guy when you saw him, and what direction was he going? And then, did he look tired? How long had he been running when you saw him? And what does he look like? Is he 5'5" and 120 pounds and 18 years old? Or is he 6'2" and 250 pounds and he's 35 years old?
Yeah, not going to go as far.
Not going to go as far, right? May not go as far. And what is he wanted for? Is he a parolee that's been in and out of prison all his life? He's probably going to run pretty far. Is he an 18-year-old kid that just tried to steal a car and he's never been to jail? Then, the psychological part of it too is, okay, what did this guy do? How far do you think he's potentially going to run to try and get away? And then, how long has it been? And where'd you physically see him? And then from an air standpoint, getting all that same information, now you have the ability to look at the area and be like, okay, well, if he hits one more fence, he's in a parking lot that goes out to a major roadway and he's gone. But if he goes left, he's over 2 barbed wire fences into a backyard with a dog, probably not. And so you get to see those path of travel. Another one too is watching if you've been in a pursuit. If the guy's making multiple laps around the same area, right? He's circling the same neighborhood, or he's come back to where he started. He probably knows that area. If he's hitting turns and he looks pretty deliberate as he's hitting turns, or is he hesitant on where he's going? If he's hesitant on where he's going, he may not know the area. If he foot bails, he very well possibly could not know anybody in that area. It's unfamiliar to him. Where's the car come back to? Do we know this person? And then the tactics can change from there too, right? So if the guy knows the area, he's trying to make it to a buddy's house. He's trying to make it to his mom's house, whatever it is. Or that, no, this is an unfamiliar area for him, or we don't know, but it looked like he didn't know where he was going. Then, okay, he's very well possibly could be hunkered down somewhere because he's got nowhere to go. Or he's going to be on the phone trying to blend in, walking down the street or something.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the psychological aspect that you gain through canine experience, and then observing that and being overhead. And I just appreciate that you're voicing that, saying like, how fast are they running? What's their physical capabilities?
Yeah.
And then being specific when you do have an air unit or canine coming, saying, I saw him hit this fence going this somewhat direction. This is what his demeanor was, because that really, at that point, it's based off of your experience of where you think the other people have gone, where you found those people based on where they're running.
Yeah, something that stands out to me, like, was there ever a time where you, early on in canine, where you missed a suspect who was hiding, and because you didn't just take the totality of everything of what you just talked about into play, and you were really, I don't know, I guess to me I kind of correlate to chasing the rabbit, where you think the bad guy went, and so that's where you drive your dog to find him. And then when you don't find him, you're like, ah, shit, I guess he got away.
Yep. One instance stands out. I still think about it because like I said, we were talking before we started this about the ones you think about are the ones you screwed up on, the ones you missed. Was still in training, brand new, having the seasoned canine handler shadowing me through, going to calls. Unit gets in a pursuit. The guy crashes out and runs. Was last seen running down a narrow easement alleyway, I guess, if you will, that led to a small apartment complex that was fenced in and adjacent to neighborhoods, a bunch of houses on the other side of the fence. July, it's like 110 degrees outside. We get out, we start searching. We go down the alleyway into the apartment complex. It's real small. I think it was only like a 6-unit apartment complex. My dog starts to show an alert high on a fence. There was a row of garbage cans. There was about 10 garbage cans lined up, all stacked right next to each other along the fence. My dog's alerting on the fence high, thinking that, okay, and me being brand new and like, no, he might have gone over, but it was the pretty high fence. And so we worked him off of it, worked the rest of the apartment complex, came back, and at that point, it's 110 degrees outside. My dog is spent, tired. So we're going to put my dog up, grab my partner's dog, who was extremely seasoned handler, and he was going to go the opposite direction of the way I had searched because that had already been searched. And something just bugged me. I was like, no, I go, can we just have your dog go back to where my dog was alerting on the fence and just see? Cause I go, I don't trust that I gave him enough time there, because we kind of pulled him off of it. And I go, just send your dog back that direction. And so same thing, dog goes in, alerts on the fence. He goes down the row of trash cans. He goes like 4 trash cans down and dives in between the trash cans and bites the guy on the foot. The guy had been laying prone in between the garbage cans and the fence. And my dog was alerting. My dog was right. I was not trusting my dog and just trying to outthink what I thought potentially the suspect had done, and didn't allow my dog to work through it, and didn't trust the fact that my dog was telling me that the guy was there. And so I was more pissed at myself than anything else. I thrown garbage cans out of the way to try and put handcuffs on the guy. But
well, I think that brings up a good point. That's why I asked you, because I think it takes something like that to realize how, as a good handler, you should go back and go, all right, how did I miss that? And then what cues did my dog put off that I ignored? And that makes it that makes the canine job really hard. I feel like that's the most challenging job.
Absolutely. You're always second guessing yourself. And
yeah, it's terrible.
It is. You have to trust your dog. And from working multiple dogs, that you may only get a tiny
like
little
a head snap,
little head pop.
Yeah.
It might be super, super subtle. And if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss it.
Yeah.
Because your dog, their brains are only so big. And if there was ever an animal that had ADHD, it's a freaking police canine.
And especially if it's a little Mal. Their brains are even smaller. But
yeah, and depending on the type of dog, right?
Yeah.
Mals search different than Shepherds. Shepherds tend to be way more ground oriented and tracking. Malinois are all over the place. And if you miss it, you may never get it again, especially if depending on how you're searching that yard or how you've gone into that search or where the guy is. That's why we're talking about patrol guys. That's why your cover officers are hugely important, because the ability for your cover to watch everything else but the dog, so you can focus on watching your dog and not missing those cues, is huge. You get a lot of guys that are paying attention to the dog.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, what's he doing now? And this is that. And it was like, we can do that at a different time when we're not doing something live.
Yeah.
And so having good cover officers that are able to watch everything that you're not.
Yeah, totally.
Is hugely important.
And I know we're talking about canines, and we're probably giving Mark a little bit of PTSD.
Yeah, I'm already done. Dude. Like what are we doing?
But
we're here to talk about air ops. Nobody cares about canines. Nobody cares. I like how Kyle's like, oh, we got a lot of canine. We have way more patrol and specialty units watching this than canines. So
I know. So
skip. Mike, talk about air ops.
He's got PTSD of dogs, but
we're going. Mike, what do you do in a helicopter?
The thing about the canine thing, though, seriously, is because it's what made you be a good TFO, is taking all of that knowledge from learning those lessons and then applying it. Because now to me, if I'm in your shoes, being a prior dog handler, like I would look for a big picture stuff.
Yes.
Rather than, just going from, and I'm not saying like, of course there's good TFOs out there that never did canine. That's fine. But I just think that heavily carries over. So you don't get such, I guess I'll call it tunnel vision. I think that's why you're so great at what you do, because
in the searching technique, like I said earlier, the searching technique is similar.
Are we still talking about canines?
We'll get there, dude.
Mike, come on. Kyle, why are we on this still? This is an Air Ops perimeter podcast.
Yeah. Anyways, go ahead.
Mike.
So searching as a TFO, there are very similar techniques, or thinking like a canine handler while you're searching yard, as opposed when it comes to where the guy potentially went, suspect tactics on, all that same information. And in Air Ops, we're looking for all that same information. How long has it been? Where did you last see him? What does he look like? What is he wanted for? And did he look gassed? Is he gonna keep running? Another thing too is like, where did he run from? Was it a vehicle pursuit that went 20 miles and he's in an unfamiliar city? or did he run from the back door of his mom's house and he's in his neighborhood that he grew up in? So
yeah, good point.
Those are important as well. And do we know this guy? Do we know him, or is he complete random dude that we have no idea who he is, and we're going to attempt to ID him, and then maybe we'll know where he went. So all that stuff is completely relevant to both positions. Absolutely.
So with your experience, Kyle, talk about helicopter again. This cracks me up because I know you're like, God.
No, just trying to correlate the two.
I know. No, and it does make sense. The training and the experience of knowing where to go and where to look, it totally makes sense. You're sitting in the helicopter looking overhead at all of that. Do you get that information? Like, are these cops on the ground actually telling you, hey, this is what he looked like, his demeanor, where he's coming from, what type of a vehicle, how long? Like, are they actually telling you this? Or do you have to ask, or is there times when you can't ask and you don't get it?
It happens, both happens. So yes, we can, a lot of times on our way to the call, if the TFO is doing his job correctly and actively listening to that radio and absorbing information that is being either told to the dispatcher or given by the dispatcher or talked about between other units, most of the time we can just about get all the information we need by the time we get there, because we're listening, we're writing stuff down, we're figuring it out as we go. Then there's times where either the patrol unit doesn't have a whole lot for us, or they're inexperienced and it's like pulling teeth. And same with dispatchers. So a lot of dispatchers are good. They understand the information that we need. They're good at giving it to us. Otherwise, it is a 1-for-1. We ask a question, we get one simple answer. So we have to follow that up with another question. Okay. And it's like, we're pulling teeth trying to get all the information we need.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know if it's just a lack of understanding, or if, the question's being asked wrong, maybe, or if just not, we base it on, my philosophy was always like, I can't do my job to the best of my ability if I don't understand everyone else's job that mine's affecting. So as a K-9 handler, as a TFO, I'd go to the comm center and sit with our dispatchers and force them to tell me what they didn't like about me. It was kind of a fun exercise because they thought I was kidding.
Oh God.
And I'm like, no, I'm serious. I go, don't tell me I'm doing a good job. I don't need to hear that. If I'm not doing a good job, I need to find a different one. I want to know what you don't like about your refrigerator. Give me your 1-star reviews and let me know what I can change or do better to make your job better, or let me understand what you have going on with all these computer screens in front of you, and what I do or say on the radio affects what you have to input into your system. And then if I give you a license plate, what does it take for you to run it? If I blurt out something without a pause, how does that affect you? And so then that starts a conversation with them asking questions, them giving me some type of feedback, and whether it's okay, I'll change that, I didn't realize, or it's a conversation as to, okay, I understand that this is why we do what we do, and they understand as well. So I think there's probably a lot of patrol guys that have never been to the comm center, may not even know where it is, and they may do something a certain way in their car, on their computer, the way they talk on the radio, that they think's a good way to do it, but they are causing
an adverse effect
on something else, whether it be input into the CAD, whether it be a screen the dispatcher has to go to, a radio that they need to switch over to that's not easily accessible with what they got going on. So the education part of it is good too as well, to just understand what everybody is doing. So we invite everybody out to fly with us. Part of our training curriculum for all our trainees is to come on a ride along with us, to get an idea and observe what we do, listen to the radios that we listen to, and have a better understanding of our perspective. And so I think that's probably part of it. where they just may not understand. And then, so the more information, more accurate, up-to-date information we get is huge. For patrol guys, it's always, I think a lot of times too, they may not have it. They may not have a witness that has good information, or they may not be asking the right questions to that witness. We always tell our guys, hey, when you're talking to somebody, you get the basis information. What happened? What does he look like? And then ask that guy or ask that witness, hey, stop and think about it for a second and give me one thing that stood out to you about this guy when he ran past you. Oh, he had red shoes on. Oh, well, suspects will change their clothes quite a bit, but very rarely will they change their shoes, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to run out of their sandals, but if they've got a nice pair of Jordans on or something, they're going to hold on to those. So those kinds of things, or think of one thing that stood out or is very specific about the vehicle that you saw flee. Well, it was missing a headlight, or it's got a spare tire on the back, or it's got a steely, a spare tire on the rear driver's side. So when I'm looking for that 95 white Toyota Camry, right, it's easier to rule out a whole pack of cars on a major roadway very quickly from the air than it is if I've got to just look for a white 95 Toyota Camry. So things like that, asking for very specific information if they have it, and then means of travel, direction of travel. Means of travel is huge because a lot of times we'll get on a call where, they left northbound 5 ago. And then 10 minutes later, as we're searching, they left on a skateboard or they left on a bike. Well, okay.
Yeah, you can get a lot further.
That just tripled their distance that they could have gone, right? So that's those things are important.
So you're in the cockpit as a TFO. Your guys are in a pursuit. You're overhead. Like, what are you looking for in just a vehicle pursuit?
In a vehicle pursuit, different agencies are different on their policies.
Mm-hmm.
Our policy in my agency is that the airship, it used to say shall, it doesn't anymore, but we will assume radio communication and direction or coordination of that pursuit. So when we get overhead, we assume the radio communication and calling, as we call it, calling that pursuit for the patrol units.
So the number one or number two in the pursuit no longer use the radio. They turn it over to you. You have the best view of everything.
Correct. And we think that's the most beneficial for a number of reasons. One, it allows that unit to focus solely on driving. They no longer have to drive with one hand and have a microphone in the other, worry about reading street signs or the computer if they're in an unfamiliar area. There's less stress on one less task that they have to do. They also can increase their following distance by not having to be right behind that dude to make sure that they see every turn that guy makes, because we're overhead and we can tell them where they're going. They have the ability to kind of check up or slow down just a little bit to clear those intersections safely and not just be right in the guy's trunk the whole time.
Well, I think one of the most stressful things in a pursuit when you're number one before you have a helicopter overhead is you are right on their ass, because you don't want to lose that car. And then once you get air over, there is a relief of like, okay, if I lose the car, you guys still have it. And
there's quite a few number of pursuits, and I'm sure there are in every agency, where people get ditched quickly. One, we still have to drive with due regard for safety, even if you are in a pursuit with lights and siren. So the guy is playing GTA that you're chasing, and he doesn't care. He's going to yeet it out into an intersection and be gone by the time you have a chance to get back up to speed after clearing that intersection safely. Cars are much faster. I would imagine majority of the agencies nowadays drive the Explorers, which are, relatively fast, but not compared to some of these sports cars, Chargers and other cars that are souped up in BMWs and Mercedes or any other car that doesn't have to follow any rules. So that can be difficult. So by allowing the airship to follow that guy, and quite honestly, guys can drive faster than we can fly. The nice thing about the area that we live in or work in is that there's not really a straight enough street in our region for a guy to get away from us and completely just walk from us. There is enough, bend in the streets or bends in the freeways that we don't have to follow the roads. So we can cut corners and keep up that way. And I've always said nothing moves faster than Motorola. So we can use radios to make other agencies aware and put people in strategic places that can pick up that pursuit if that was to happen.
What's one of the things that you notice overhead during a pursuit that cops can do better? Like what's something that stands out to you where you're like, I see this quite often?
A lot of times it could be following distance. Guys are way too close to a suspect car. Suspects are going to do stupid stuff, right? They are either not very good drivers because they're inexperienced and young, or they're just serial criminals that run from the cops every chance they get, and they've employed certain tactics to purposely make the cop screw up, whether it is slamming on their brakes to make the cop hit them or disable the patrol vehicle, or they're purposely swerving or purposely attempting to hit other cars or cause near miss vehicle accidents to make that cop have to stop or check up, purposely running, intersections, red lights, things like that, or opposite lanes of travel. That's a big one that we see.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I've been in pursuits where there's no traffic, middle of the night, and they literally cross over to the double yellow line just to think that you're gonna cancel it because they know.
That'll most of the agencies around here will get that canceled pretty quick if there's any type of, and so that's one of the big things for as TFOs, as at least for me when I was TFOing, was, hey, he's opposite lanes of travel. Do not follow him. Reminding those guys, hey, stay right way. We've got this guy. We'll watch him wherever he goes. There's no reason to follow him wrong way, or God forbid, follow him wrong way onto the freeway or something like that. So in most of the time in my radio traffic was, hey, he's wrong way. Do not follow. We've got him. Just, parallel him or pace him on the correct lane. So following too closely, a lot of times, every agency I'm sure has policies on how many units are allowed to be in a pursuit. So we'll get units that are just, they're stacking up. So if your partners are in a pursuit, there's plenty of cars following it already, then the job of those other units responding to it is not to become the 10th vehicle in the train. The job of that vehicle is to potentially find a good, safe spot to potentially put down a spike strip or block an intersection. So if that guy goes through that major intersection that's 4 lanes across, you're warning everybody in advance that something bad's coming. And so that should be the responsibility of all those other units that are responding, and to coordinate, like, okay, I know my district. I know this area. The last 3 pursuits we had, this is the way the car went. So I'm going to try and, I'll parallel them on this street, get to where I need to go, and set a tack strip. And please make sure you do it in a safe area. But those are the things that those guys can do better, is thinking ahead of the dudes that are actually chasing it.
That takes discipline, though, and that's not
absolutely
easy to always
takes discipline.
That's what I've always told guys, is try to think at least 1 or 2 steps ahead of what's going on, not just what is going on. Because, like you said earlier, where the suspect is not going to be, and it's right there if they've already.
Well, don't get me wrong. Everybody wants to be in the pursuit, right?
Yeah.
But I think ultimately everybody wants to catch the bad guy and send somebody to jail safely without, harming yourself or anybody else, suspect included. So think outside the box and think through to the end when you're not the one in pursuit. You'll be the one in pursuit maybe next time, but help your guy and be part of the team and change the outcome or help the outcome by getting ahead of it to potentially put that spike strip down.
Well, I always wanted to be in the pursuit or was in the pursuits, but then if I couldn't get in it, the second thing I always want to do is spike the car. Cause I don't know anybody. I literally don't know a single person that's ever spiked a car. How awesome would that be?
I know more than one that have spiked patrol cars.
But don't name their name. But can you name somebody that's?
Oh, absolutely.
Can you really?
Oh yeah, we have quite a few people at my agency that
spiked
even
cars?
on my patrol team when I was a sergeant, we would have several guys spike cars.
Wow, that's awesome. I don't know one person that spiked it.
I do think it's it's not something that happens every pursuit.
Yeah.
It is hard. I mean, a lot of times you'll throw them out there and then people will avoid them.
Well, that's because you're not doing it correctly. You got to throw them out there.
No, well, yeah.
And
I mean,
then you
sometimes
pull
bad
it in
guys,
front of it.
Yeah,
that's the problem. Is almost every video I've seen, they throw them out in front. And you're like, that's not how you're trained.
And a lot of times you see too, and videos all over the internet, right, of patrol officers getting injured or killed by standing right next to their patrol car with all their lights and all their lights on, right off the side of the road, right?
Yeah.
If that guy has any type of malice in him, he's going to aim for you.
Yeah.
So that's what I said. Make it a safe place, right? So you watch CHP do it where their car is parked in a certain area and then they're behind, say, a bridge abutment or something that's protecting them. Park your car. There's no reason for your lights and siren to be on. So a lot of times we've seen it where units will pull and park on an on-ramp, leave their car up on the on-ramp, and they'll walk down.
Then they don't even
down
know
the
you're
embankment next to the bridge abutment, set out the spike strip or wait for that car to go by, and then they throw it. So you don't have the target of the car, and you're virtually invisible until you step out to throw it, and you have safety if that guy decides to come at you. So the biggest thing I think through all those videos and the experience that we've seen people try and throw them is they just make themselves a target rather than be safe about it.
I totally bitched out one time throwing spikes. There was a pursuit going on the freeway and it was going over 100 miles an hour. And they're like, yeah, could you get down there and set up spikes on the freeway? And I was like, nah, I'm good. Like, fuck no, dude.
Yeah, that's
I'm
dangerous.
not gonna do that. So then as the pursuit goes by, I was like, just watch. It's like, see ya.
Yeah, that's way too
I'm not
dangerous.
doing that.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's talk. I want to talk perimeters too, because this is, I think, the topic most cops struggle with is just setting up simple perimeters and containment. We teach our class and we do talk about this, and we have an acronym that we use, SIPA: contain, identify, plan, and act. The first word in our acronym is contain.
Yep. Because
you can't solve a problem unless you contain the problem. Otherwise, it's just like constant chaos. It's always moving or evolving. So we're obviously big proponents of contain that, then start working away at whatever the problem is that you have. So let's talk perimeters. What do you think guys are doing wrong or patrol people are doing wrong as it relates to perimeters? Too small, too big, not calling them out? What is it?
Yeah, I would say too small to begin with. And the speed in which the perimeter gets established is going to make or break you. Mm-hmm. And the direction and the speed and efficiency which it can get assembled, right? And so it comes back to that information we were talking about. Where did you physically last see this guy? Which direction is he going? So we know which direction to set it.
Perimeter. Yeah.
The easiest thing to do is, in our agency, majority of the time, we ask an outside district or an outside patrol unit that's not involved in the incident to call the perimeter. So most of patrol guys these days scan. So we use several different radio channels for our patrol areas. So south of the river can be on one channel and north of the river is on two different channels. But most guys are scanning so they can hear. So we'll have a guy answer up going, hey, I'll call the perimeter for you. So as units get in the area, they're advising that they're in the area and they're asking for a spot. Then that perimeter, or that person that's calling the perimeter is assigning a particular map destination for that unit. And hopefully that person is thinking the big picture. It's better if they know the area, but it's not necessary if they're looking at a map. But it is helpful if that person calling the perimeter does know the area, because then they know the topography of it and what is actually there rather than just looking at a flat map. And they may know that, okay, I know this street curves and this person can't see this person from this corner to this corner. Mm-hmm. So we need to adjust. I would say the speed in which it gets put, the size of it, it's much easier to make it smaller. It's difficult to make it bigger. Resources a lot of times has something to do with it, depending on the size of your agency, the size of the area that you're in, the amount of deputies that you have available can hinder it. And then depending on how it starts, a lot of times if it's a pursuit, a vehicle pursuit, crashes foot bales, and the guy is gone on foot. Nobody chased him, and he's up over, or one person chased him. He hit 2 fences and he lost him. Now that patrol unit is lost sight, and he's directing units to it. A majority of the time, we're overhead. We look down, and there are 6 patrol cars at the crashed suspect vehicle. Like you said earlier, we know the one place in the world that suspect is not is in that suspect car.
Yeah.
Right. So unless your patrol partner is fighting or shooting or doing something that needs 6 guys to help them, go somewhere else. Start establishing that perimeter by yourselves until someone can get on the radio and manage the additional resources that are coming. But those first 2, 3, 4 initial officers are huge in, it could be a quick roll by of the scene, glancing, going, okay, my dude's good. He's standing there. He's fine. He's talking on the radio. I can see he's okay. Go blow by him by 2, 3, 4 blocks and take up a spot in the direction that your guy went. A former partner in Air Ops of mine tells a story about another sister agency in our region of watching I think it was gang detectives. They get out, contact a guy, and he runs. And one guy gives chase, and the second patrol guy right away sprints 90 degrees the opposite direction down the street.
Smart.
And at first, he's saying, I was watching this, and I'm like, what in the hell is this guy doing? He's leaving his partner alone to chase this dude. I was like, what is he doing? And then it made sense to him when the guy got to the opposite corner, and now they basically established a 2-man, one block perimeter.
Yeah.
And he goes, that's not something that you just think of like that second. He goes, that's something that those guys have talked about. Those guys have worked through. Those guys had worked together for long enough that they knew that, okay, you're faster, you're the runner, and I'm going to go this direction, and we'll try and establish a perimeter. So those kind of things are important. It's coming on a scene, make sure your partner's good, go establish some type of perimeter position. And if you're the first one that gets there, then you could very well be the guy that calls the rest of the perimeter, knowing the area and knowing where they need to go. And then based on additional resources, how big can you make your perimeter? And a lot of times, what are we looking for, right? Is it an 18-year-old kid that jumped off a stolen bike? Or is it a homicide suspect that's on parole that we've been watching for a week, and now he just ran from a specialty unit, and he's on foot and he's potentially armed? That dude's going to be a 10-block perimeter. Mm-hmm. That bike theft might be a 2-block perimeter. But I think it's important, and it's been said by guys way smarter than me and in different forums, where the more practice and the more repetitions we have at doing these types of perimeters, the better we'll become at them when they really matter. Because you can't have an agency that doesn't do them or won't do them for minor offenses or minor people running, and then expect them to operate at a high level and establish a really good perimeter when it really matters. The little ones, the easy ones, are practice for the big ones. And if you treat every perimeter like it's an OIS, or treat every perimeter like it's America's Most Wanted, even if it's not, then when it is, you'll be able to establish that really good, solid perimeter. The searching techniques will be solid, and you'll have a way better outcome of catching who you're looking for, as opposed to, well, we haven't done a perimeter in 6 months because we haven't had a felony to chase.
Yeah, and shit hits the fan. And
now all of a sudden there's a 211 that just crashed in it.
I'm glad you said that, and I really want to hit on that. I want to double down on that, actually, and I think anybody listening to this should seriously pay attention to what you just said, because let's be honest, most of the time when something minor does happen, whether it's like maybe it's just a theft or a misdemeanor crime occurs, the sergeants will be so quick to be like, oh, what's the crime? Well, it was this. All right, just shut it down, whatever. Take the report and move on. I've never liked that, and I totally agree with you in that if you're going to set a perimeter, or if someone does run from the cops and you have some lawful reason to detain them or even place them under arrest, I think you should absolutely be practicing those perimeters, setting them up. Even if you don't do well on them, who cares, right? Because at the end of the day, if a theft suspect gets away, like, okay, so what? But bigger picture, like you said, when the shit does hit the fan, and we've all experienced that, a major critical incident, you do not want to be fumbling the football when you have got to get your shit together, get a really good perimeter going, and then command posts and all of those things. And so if you are listening to this, maybe you're a supervisor or even just a beat cop, don't take that lightly. Like if someone runs from you and you have the opportunity to set the perimeter, I guess I hate to use the term, think of it as practice because you're actually doing it, but
it absolutely
you
is
should practice it. Yeah. You should do it. You should set it up. I've always been a big proponent of that. And you know what? At the end of the day, if a supervisor is like, hey, we've been on this for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, calls are stacking and it's something minor, fine, break it down and then debrief like, hey, what did we do wrong or what did we do right on this? How quickly did we get this established?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so huge because it's inevitable. Like if you don't practice it and then something really bad happens, which it's going to happen, then you can't expect to perform in the Super Bowl and do it efficiently and hope to God don't let somebody really, really bad get away. And so,
yeah, it's been said, I'm sure hundreds of times, but right. You're not going to rise to the occasion.
Right. Yeah. You're going to fall to the lowest level of training.
You're going to fall to the lowest level of training. And if you don't have the experience and you're not going to be able to perform or even know what to do. Right.
Well, and how often in advanced officer trainings that your department puts on, how often did you ever train perimeters? Like in an actual scenario in a neighborhood, wherever?
Never.
Did you ever do that?
No, it's always because of a response of an actual call.
Never. Yeah. Never. You don't ever train that at training. You can never replicate.
Well, you can't if you sign up for Mike's class.
That's right.
Yeah, you can.
ShotsFiredTrainingGroup.com.
You can, but that's just not something that departments train. They don't ever train. All right, guys, today we're going to go out and we've contacted all these neighbors. We actually did once for a canine training, but
yeah, we had the opportunity. That was my
Here we go.
Well, it's weird that like everything circles back to canine and becoming a really good cop. I'm just saying. Anyways,
that was my
seriously though.
But yeah, that was going to be my question to you is like, were you able to do that as a canine handler? And
one time we had to literally spend multiple days going up through an entire neighborhood, multiple streets, knocking on doors, got permission from all the homeowner, and it ended up being a really good training. Yeah. That's not practical to do all the time. No. And even when we did do that, it is not the same as a real bad guy running from the cops, the adrenaline, searching. You're not taking it as serious. And so to me, again, I'm going to go back to, if you're listening to this and you're a cop or supervisor, don't take those small things for granted and just, tell your cops to go 10-8 or whatever, go handle that. Like actually do it and practice for the real one.
Yeah. Let them actually set that up.
Yeah,
for sure.
And then take a screenshot almost if you can, or a picture of the screen, and then debrief it when you're done and be like, what happened here?
Yeah, and roll call or whatever.
Why not?
Yeah, and then you said 2 block. Like I think the golden rule, right, would be anything outside of something major, being an 8, 10, 12 block perimeter. Like I think 2 to 3 block is pretty standard of dude runs from a stolen car. Okay, let's not just lock down the first streets that we see. Let's go 2, 3 blocks and start from there.
And that's where it becomes important on, what does this guy look like, right? Is he 5'10" and 120 pounds? He's hitting fences. Is he 6'2" and 250 pounds? Probably not hitting that many fences. He might run through them, but he's not going to go as far as somebody else would, potentially just based on what the guy looks like and how in shape the dude is or how agile he is. And then, set a perimeter, spread it out. How many resources do you have coming? And if you've got to make it smaller, you can make it smaller.
Yeah.
And then it's almost impossible it's not impossible to make it bigger, but I would say if you do make it bigger, it's more than likely he's not going to be in what you make. He's going to be even farther. So if you're making a 2 block perimeter, make it 3. If you want 2 units to come cover you, make it 3 or 4. That way you have the ability to get somebody in custody. K9 guys will thank you for it. I know we enjoyed the searching. That was what we were there for. It's what we trained for. Mm-hmm. So when you go from, trespass call to trespass call as a K9 handler, it's It's not fun. And same with in the helicopter, right? It's fun. We're flying a helicopter, but when there's nothing to do, there's nothing to do. So we live and breathe by the patrol guys giving us work.
So what about having patrol ask for you for something before there's before a robbery?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like how can you be better utilized if you're up there for patrol guys?
So we attempt to, our biggest job is helping patrol. Obviously, we are a patrol car in the sky. It's what we refer to ourselves as all the time. And the most work we can take away from patrol, the better, as far as lessening their workload of pending calls. Those trespass calls, the suspicious people that the call's been pending for an hour. We will clear out as many of those as we can. We keep stats on all the calls we go to. That's a good stat for us, how many patrol units we were able to free off of calls for service based on us handling it ourselves. And we do nothing different than a patrol unit would do driving to a call. We just get there faster. So, if the units are asking for us, absolutely. Hey, can Air come take a look at this for us? We're 5 minutes away, or we're extended because it's a longer drive or whatever. So we have the ability with the equipment we carry to surf our pending calls on our CAD system. So our TFO will look through the calls and cherry pick what he can out of there to handle. So as soon as we go in service, he'll go through those calls and be like, okay, there's 4 trespassing calls and a suspicious vehicle call. Let's go knock all these out. And then that one lessens the work for the patrol guys. And then it also gives them the opportunity to maybe go find that vehicle stop that's going to run, or that suspicious person.
Proactive.
Go be proactive and do something, do the fun stuff and do the things that take people to jail, as opposed to shooing off a transient off of a business stoop.
So I remember I used to, if there like a good domestic violence call that would come out, I would ask if Air was up and say, hey, this is what we have. Can you just fly over and just see if you see anybody?
Yep. We do that a lot.
Just like hang out.
Did it last night, as a matter of fact. And we will hear those calls come out. And if nothing else is going on, or the call that we're on is lower priority, or the call we're going to, we'll divert to that, because it may be happening inside, but the guy could very easily leave or go in the backyard, or things spill out into the street all the time.
Which could lead to a pursuit, or a foot pursuit, or a perimeter, to a dog bite. Back to your canine stuff, Kyle.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's been plenty of time. There's been plenty of times where we get overhead and we're visible and you can hear us. We're flying at 1,000 feet maybe. So he realizes that, sheriff's helicopter's here. I better go.
Yeah.
So he leaves. He runs. Does 2 things, right? It eliminates the threat to that victim that may be stuck in the house with that guy if he decides to leave because he hears us. And then we're giving real-time information to those cops on where he is, where'd he go, or, hey, your guy just ran into the backyard. He's in a back shed and now he's got a knife in his hand, or whatever it is. Or we had a call a few months ago, guy, I don't know if he was home to visit or whatever, anyways, raped his stepsister, still in the house with her. So we were the first ones to get overhead. He runs out in the backyard. He's got a huge, Jackhawk 9000, hunting knife in his hand, running around the backyard. Tried to hang himself, tried to jump off the roof, did all kinds of silly stuff. We established a perimeter around that. He ended up hopping a couple fences and running, and it turned into a big, surround and call out perimeter. And the canine ended up finding him and taking him into custody.
Weird.
But that type of call, if we wouldn't have been there, that guy would have been long gone.
Yeah.
And most likely, a known suspect probably would have been caught eventually, but more trauma for the victim, not knowing where that dude is in an established, pretty nice neighborhood, like not something they deal with every day. So it was a benefit that we were there to see all that before patrol units would have ever even been able to get there. And now you're giving them real-time information. We'll go to those calls all the time where we think it has the potential to come outside.
Do you find yourself going to calls sometimes that maybe it's a critical incident cracking off, or I don't know, perimeters are being set for whatever reason, and you can hear a certain unit on scene, you know that person's there. You're like, all right, cool. This dude, I trust this guy or girl. It's so funny because you and I have worked a lot together on a lot of calls over the years, and you always will call my name out on the radio. Like, forget my call sign. He's always like, hey, Kyle, like, I need you to do this or get over here, whatever, which is funny just because we know each other. But all the patrol guys are always like, how does he know your name? Or he's like, who is that guy? He's always calling you by your name. And I'm just like,
you don't listen to your call sign.
Well, that could be true, but I also feel like
quite honestly, I can't remember it. So
yeah, but is there like, there's got to be some relief for you being a TFO or even a pilot, knowing who is on scene and who do you trust to kind of manage stuff.
Yeah. And I think that comes to just your like comfortability too. And part of what you say is when you hear a helicopter overhead or dog be on scene, there's a relief, right? Oh, okay.
Yeah, there is.
Okay, good. We got somebody watching our backs, or there's a guy with more experience than us that's here now that's going to take over. So I think part of that is the radio communications becomes easier, more comfortable, more of just the conversation between two friends that are dealing with a problem, as opposed to, very rigid communications. Like
plus stress.
Right? It just
the lack of confidence.
I try and make it more of a calming environment, and we always say that we're very much like dispatchers when it comes to radio communications. Very plain, vanilla tone in our voice, no inflection a lot of times. I don't miss an opportunity to be sarcastic, but other than that, it's not. You're not amped up. You're not getting
excited.
You're not getting excited. You're not adding any extra to the call if it's not necessary. Now, there are certain times that's absolutely necessary, and those are very specific to certain circumstances. And that's part of our briefings that we talk to our patrol guys about, is like, hey, you'll hear us on the radio. We're boring. We sound like a dispatcher. It's on purpose. If you hear us raise our voice or yell at you for some reason, it's for a reason. So you may not understand what I say, but hopefully you'll recognize the inflection in my voice and make you stop for some reason or another.
Yeah.
Everybody's seen the video from years ago from San Diego PD, from Kevin Means is the TFO, where the guy goes over the fence with the shotgun, right? Don't go over the fence. Don't go over the fence. Oh, yeah. Guys that got a shotgun on the other side of the fence. Stay where you are, get cover, right? Those are very specific instructions. That patrol guy may not have known what he said, but he certainly heard him screaming on the radio and paused and stopped and gone, well, probably shouldn't jump this fence. And it saved his life.
So as a TFO listening to this, I would super key in on that. And if you are a TFO who finds that you get excited, then I think being able to dial that down, we call that emotional intelligence. Because you're right, dude, there's been so many times on calls where even if I'm stressed out, I can't see what you're seeing. So I don't know what I don't know. I'm assuming the worst. And there's been a lot of times where like you would show up, I would hear your voice, you would call me by my name, and instantly that would just bring my stress levels down. And then there were a lot of times where it was like, all right, we've got this, dude, here, whatever, and then walk me into a dog bite or find the suspect, whatever. And you say the same thing when you were in your shooting, when things were really elevated right afterwards, and then guys who were your buddies were starting to come. Oh, which one of them happened to be a dog handler or later become a dog handler?
Yeah.
And called you by your name, which automatically took the stress out of you.
Van Dusen that used my name, and then Yasonia actually showed up and like pulled me off the side. But yeah, they did use your name, and it is. I think you actually key in on it, and you're like, oh, okay, I trust these people. I know they're here and they're coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just think I just wanted to, I don't know, I guess make note of that, of if you're in an air unit or a ground unit guy, having that type of relationship with whoever it is that's you're working in the sky with, because it really does help, and it does take the stress out of it.
It does for sure, and in fact. My old partner that just retired, he tells a story about when he first came to the patrol unit, he had never had, the air unit, he had never had a helicopter overhead on very few of his calls because he had always worked graveyard. And the shift that we work stops at usually 11 or midnight. So majority of graveyard shift, there's no air unit. And so he was working, after he'd come to the unit, he was working a off-duty gig, a additional assignment, and got into a vehicle pursuit. And same thing, as soon as air unit got overhead, knowing who was in the helicopter, because he was working with them, friends and everything else, it was the same. He said it was the same thing. It was like such a relief, and just like, oh, okay, they've got it. Now I can just focus on driving. I can relax a little bit because I know the airship's here and got it.
Well, I could imagine being a pilot. I remember when I did my fly long, you had told me that if something major was happening, the pilot doesn't want to know anything. Don't give him any, and maybe I'm wrong, but don't give him any details about what's happening, because literally your life as a TFO and the pilot's life is in the pilot's hands, piloting the helicopter. I found that really fascinating until maybe you're up and you get going flying or whatever, then relay the information to the pilot of, hey, this is what's going on. This is where we're going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you explain that? Because that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. So in our air unit, we have a culture of safety, right? Every air unit, for the most part, has some type of safety management system where it is a safety is paramount in both, not only flight operations, actually in the helicopter, but in the hangar as well, around the aircraft, just doing everyday tasks, whether it be sweeping the floor or preparing an aircraft to go fly. So we're always focused on safety around the hangar as well as safety of flight. So we never run anywhere. We're always listening to the radios, inside the hangar and available to go launch if we're not flying. But as soon as we are given the task, or we know, okay, there's a pursuit jumping off, or there's something major going on, we hear the radio inside the hangar. The TFO can continue to listen. That's fine. The pilot does not. We walk out to the helicopter. We get our gear. We walk out to the helicopter. We do the exact same safety walk around prior to getting in. And then the startup is completely the same anytime we get into the helicopter, whether it's we're going to do nothing or we're going to an OIS. Things certainly might be a little bit sped up, but the importance of not missing a switch, starting that helicopter properly so we don't cook the engine and not be able to go anywhere anyways, or not taxi out properly, or I didn't secure my seatbelt or close my door all the way because I was distracted. And then once we are out of the airport environment, we're at level flight and we're headed to the call, then I'm engaged in what's going on. And all our pilots are tactical flight officers. We're all sworn deputies. So we're both working that call together. As long as the pilot is not task saturated with pilot tasks, whether it be talking on the radio, visualizing or identifying other aircraft and maintaining separation from other civilian aircraft or other police helicopters that may be on the same call, then we can help that TFO with that call. And then vice versa, right? If the TFO is becoming task saturated with radio channels he's got to listen to or patrol units that he's got to place, the pilot can take some of those tasks as well. And then same is true for TFO helping the pilot out, changing radios, talking on our second aviation channel if necessary. So we share tasks and shed tasks if necessary to crew management as well as safety management. And then once we're on scene, the pilot can help as much as possible and he feels comfortable doing based on where we're flying, how high we're flying, who else is around, and then work that call together.
That's got to be hard, dude. Something's cracking off. You can hear it. And then to just shut your mind off and go, okay, we're going to walk out to the helicopter and do this just like as if nothing was going on. That's got to be that's got to be hard to do.
It is hard. It's expedited, but it is the same every time. Just like when we inspect our helicopter every day, it is the same process, no distractions, the same process every time. Start at the same spot, push the same switches, make sure everything comes up appropriately like it should, looking at every component, make sure it looks like it should, the same way it looked yesterday when I looked at it. It's not missing a cotter pin or bolt's not loose or something hasn't come loose. Same thing for walking out to the helicopter. We do the same exact walk around. We both start at the tail of the helicopter. Pilot goes to the TFO side. TFO goes to the pilot side. We walk around. We cross in the front. We open each other's doors for each other. And then we get into the helicopter after inspecting the critical components of that ship. So making sure all the cowlings are latched. The fuel cap is where it should be. There's nothing hanging off of it. There's not a bird that's in the cowling or something that's the blades aren't tied down, anything not how we left it. And then once we get in, same thing. Put my seatbelt on, door gets closed. All the same process for the checklist as you go through in aviation to make sure that you're doing everything properly. Safety of flight is number one. Just like arrive alive, I guess is the term for patrol guys. Driving safely to get to the call to be able to help somebody. You can't help someone if you become the call. So making sure we're doing everything properly and safely. Then I'll switch on my patrol radios once I've done all that aviation stuff. Then I'm engaged in the call and figuring out where we're going.
Yeah, makes sense. I didn't even think about that until I flew with you guys and you told me that. Was pretty interesting. I just had one more question to like spiral off that, and that's like when you guys are up there, let's say you're above something really, tragic that's happened. We've had a lot of cops killed around here, and unfortunately, you guys have been overhead while that's happening. I mean, like walk us through that, and you've got friends that have had to see that, and what it's done to them, and how do you feel like you're just helpless up there?
There is a point. I've been fortunate in not being over an incident when it is directly happened. I've been over incidents where there's been shootings. We've exchanged gunfire with suspects. I have not personally been over an incident where an officer has been shot. We had one of our canine handlers killed a couple of years ago. I happened to be off. I was supposed to be working that day. I happened to be off because my father-in-law had just passed away. So I was home. So it was my regular partner pilot who was the TFO on that incident. And then the very next day I came to work. We had a shootout with a suspect that had killed his grandmother on a patio. And so I was the TFO for that. So right on the heels of just having an officer shot as well as an officer killed, along with a dog killed on that previous incident the night before, and then dealing with the shooting that day.
Well, and dude, that same week was when the gang detective was shot, because I was one of the first guys on scene for that.
That was a rough week. So our gang detective was killed that Friday,
he was shot,
wounded that Friday. Our canine handler, 2 canine handlers, one wounded, 1 killed, dog killed on Saturday.
Yeah, it was like the next night or 2 nights.
No, Sunday, I believe. And then my father-in-law just died. And then
shootout.
The next day was the shootout. Yeah. And then that same week, that Thursday, my uncle passed away as well. Dude, so that was a rough week for our family and our agency, but got through it. And then over other incidents as they developed on containing or looking for suspects that had killed an officer. So both in K9 as well as Air Ops have been involved in incidents like that. Couple of them not real critical roles, more on standby and waiting at a command post with the hopes of being able to help, and then circumstances where we weren't needed because the guy was somewhere else or whatever. And then in the instance of a sistering agency officer down scenario, officer killed in the backyard where the suspect was barricaded in a house, actively shooting at other officers as well as SWAT officers. Spent some time over that incident and was overhead when the guy ended up ultimately surrendering, crawling out. But yeah, those are big incidents, and it sounds kind of bad, but those are the incidents that we want to be a part of. Those are the incidents that we got in the unit to handle. Those are kind of our the pursuits and the big tactical, just like shit show, if you will. Those are the kinds that we want to be involved in, to take all the pieces, make sense of it, and be that quarterback, like you said, and be an integral part of a good outcome. So whether it's tactical suggestions or shifting a perimeter or giving real-time information on where that guy is or what that guy's doing is hugely important. So you always want to be like, we want to be the guy over it.
I think there's certain people in this career who just, they want to be involved in stuff like that. And they're designed to be in it. And I truly feel like those are the cops that are going to be able to perform when it matters. So, yeah.
And I don't think it's from a morbid or a hero standpoint. I think it's more from just you got in this job to want to, the cliche, right? I got in this job as a cop to help people, but in a specialty position, especially in the air unit, when we have the ability to help other cops and be tactical about it and move those pieces around to help, that's, you want to be the guy doing it. And it's frustrating. I've always joked that watching somebody else TFO or watching somebody else be a tactical flight officer is watching someone else play Super Mario Brothers, because it's a, the first ever game, right? You've saved the princess 1,000 times. You know where all the free men are and all the coins. And so you're watching this other person that's doing the job well, but doing it different because everybody has their own style. And you're watching that screen as best you can, either from the pilot seat or from the back seat, training someone. And you just want to be like, no, let me do that. Oh, move the camera over here. No, do this. There he is. Yeah. And so it's not that they're doing anything wrong. They're doing a good job. They're doing well, but it's just that wanting to be the guy and do it, as opposed to just, like you said,
take it back seat,
almost like feeling helpless, like, let's do this. Like, we'll tell them to do that. And so that's the nice thing about the way our detail works. And a majority of the details, both the pilot and the TFO are cops. They're both tactical flight officers. They both have the experience on the ground, whether it be in patrol, K-9, SWAT, wherever they came from and are now in the air unit. There's 2 guys in that helicopter that have that experience. So none of us were helicopter dudes before we started this job. We were doofus cops that somebody thought it was a good idea to give me a helicopter, which I still baffles me, but I feel like I'm stealing my dad's El Camino every time I go to work.
That's funny.
But we have that experience and the knowledge of what we took from patrol, and then the years that we've spent as a TFO or pilots, and the hundreds, if not thousands, of calls we've been over in that time frame, whether on the ground or in the air, to take that experience that we've learned from all those other calls and give those suggestions to those patrol units to hopefully have a good outcome.
Well, I'm glad you finally came in here for this. Like Kyle said, we had talked about this for years of getting you in here, and the timing just worked out. What's the one thing you can leave people with your experience of everything that you've seen overhead? Like, what's the one thing that you want cops to take away?
I would say just be safe, for one, be proactive, chase people. I mean, and we have this conversation quite a bit in our unit and have for years on, and you see it in the videos and the auditors on YouTube and the videos that people produce. Know the law, know the policy, know what you can and can't do as a cop. Be confident in what you can and can't do, both in your policy as well as the law, and then utilize that to go contact people, make vehicle stops, be safe about it, but take people to jail, I think. And then when it comes on the tactical standpoint, just do it as much as you can as far as setting those perimeters, actively chasing people, as opposed to just like, we know who he is, we'll go get him later.
Yeah.
And then just become really good at the patrol in general. stay as long as you can, stay as long as you like, leave happy, obviously, whenever you go. But there seems to be the eagerness of larger agencies, especially ours, to get out of patrol.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
And
right
go
now.
do something else. And the age and the culture of both criminals and patrol is young. I know I sound like an old guy, right? At 23 years now into this, and the culture, I think, has changed quite a bit as it relates to, one, how long they have to work to be cops in order to retire. The age limit on that has gone up significantly, but the age and the culture of patrol is young, and they're all eager to move on to go do something else. And I don't think they're getting the experience or the knowledge that they could be getting if they stayed in patrol longer and got more comfortable before they moved on to something else. They'd be better at those other positions if they had that patrol experience.
Before we do end all this, though, I wanted you to share the story of, are we calling it a crash landing?
So I think myself and the partner I was with, my flight instructor at the time, and my TFO, or my partner, would certainly call it a crash. It was
I shouldn't even be laughing about it, dude, because I was worried when I heard about it.
It was a traumatizing experience for sure. 110% my fault. Pilot induced error. Nothing wrong with the aircraft. It was a situation where part of our mission training while we're doing flight training is to learn how to land off-site.
So this was a time when you were training to become a pilot.
Correct. So I had my private license.
Okay.
I was probably, I don't recall exactly how many hours I had at the time, a couple hundred hours. My CFI was several thousand hours into his flying career, but a newly minted CFI as well. So I was his first student, if you will. Mm-hmm. We had been partners for several years, friends.
Great guy, by the way.
Great guy, but yeah,
super
extremely
solid.
good guy. Just recently retired, and he's loving every minute of it. So part of our mission training is learning how to land off-site. So off-site landings are anywhere other than a heliport or an airport, some, unimproved, unestablished landing zone.
Environment or something.
Environment, yeah. So there are occasional opportunities where we can help patrol by landing, either to apprehend a suspect, help a unit that's fighting on the ground. We have 2 large rivers that run through our region that we land on the side of the river occasionally to help people that are rafting or drowning. So that happens probably couple times a summer. So it's an important part of what we need to be able to do. Not that we do all the time, but it's something that we train. Mm-hmm. So we had intended on landing very near our airport. East of our airport, there is new housing developments. And at the time, they were building a new housing development that just had the streets established, the paved streets, no houses, no other obstacles other than bare streets. So we had intended on landing on one of those streets of a undeveloped neighborhood. Part of your off-site landing procedure is you do a recon site survey of the area. There's an acronym that goes along with it, but we use you use an orbit over the intended landing position to figure out if there's any obstacles. Are we going to hit wires? Are there tall trees? Is the landing spot suitable for where we need to land? Where's the wind? What's going on with the environment that we're trying to go into? And then lastly, part of that procedure is to make sure that your helicopter has the adequate power and the capabilities to be able to land and hold a hover and safely land in that spot. So we do what's called a power check by going out towards away from the landing zone to a different area that's going to be on our approach path to make sure, pull that helicopter into a hover, so stop our forward flight and hover the helicopter to make sure that we have adequate power to be able to descend down into that landing zone. And so we had done our site survey, our recon of the area. It looked safe. We talked through everything. We discussed it, and then we proceeded out to the east to do a power check. And so in aviation, you have a certain pattern that you would fly in an airport or to a landing zone. So there is a downwind where you are traveling the opposite direction of your landing zone, parallel to it. Then you would turn what they call a base, and then a final where you're basically making a box as you turn, left turns in this case, to come back to our landing zone. So as I made the downwind, we noted where the wind was from, and we began our left turn. And as we made the left turn, I allowed our airspeed to bleed off too low. So we were too low of an airspeed. And once a helicopter drops below a particular airspeed, you lose the efficiency of the aerodynamic capabilities of the helicopter and the tail and everything else. And so you transition from forward flight, which is aerodynamically stable for the most part, to hover flight, which is way more dynamic and inherently unstable, depending on the conditions and the makeup of your helicopter and where the wind's coming from and all that other stuff. So as we made the turn, I allowed the airspeed to bleed off too low. My CFI called out, hey, airspeed. I pulled collective, which adds power, which adds torque. I was way late on establishing and inputting the correct pedal. In our particular helicopter, it's right pedal. So I didn't push in enough right pedal as I pulled power. And so by bleeding off the airspeed, what we had thought was a coordinated left turn was actually the start of a left yaw, which is the nose of the helicopter spinning as opposed to the entire helicopter turning. And so when I pulled power, I basically just made that spin worse by adding more torque and not putting in enough pedal. And that induced a spin around the mast. So we were essentially in a flat spin at 400 feet off the ground. We attempted the corrective maneuver of basically in a helicopter, you have what's called loss of tail rotor effectiveness, when your tail rotor is no longer providing stability and anti-torque for you to cause you not to spin. So that's what the pedals are designed for. And the tail rotor is essentially keeping you from spinning the opposite direction of the way the rotor spins.
So you guys are just sitting there just spinning.
So we are spinning like
Jesus,
around.
Dude.
So I'm in the right side. He's on the left side. We're in a left spin. So I am essentially pinned against the window. So he took over the controls, attempted to break us out of the spin by corrective maneuvers. In the manual for this particular helicopter, the proper recovery technique for this particular event, if you're in a spin or lose tail rotor, is to lower the collective, which lowers the power, which lowers the torque, and then potentially enter what they call an auto rotation, which is completely shutting off the engine, which takes all the torque out of it, which should essentially stop the spin. They don't recommend that anywhere below 500 feet. We were at 400 feet. So all we had was directional control up and down. We didn't have any forward or sideways control because we were in a spin. He elected to take it to the ground to stop the spin. So luckily for us, we were over an empty cow pasture with no obstacles around. There were tall towers about, I would say, 500 to 800 yards north of us, but there were no major power lines or anything near us where we were at. He was able to take it to the ground. We hit the ground, still spinning. As we contacted the ground, he pulled power in order to cushion the landing, which popped us back up in the air. So as we hit the ground, we hit in the spin, we sheared the camera off the front and damaged the skids. And then as we popped up in the air, we spun another 360 and then landed upright on the edge of like a little pond, because it was wintertime. It was in December, so it had been raining. So there was water pooled in this cow pasture area. So we landed in relatively soft mud and upright, engine still running, both unharmed. We were uninjured. And he looked at me and said, "Holy shit, we just crashed. Call your wife." And I said, "Good idea."
Fucking crazy.
So I wasn't able to get out of my door because we were the position we were in, we were kind of like the skids had broken and collapsed like they're designed to do. And so we were like right side low. So our the right side, that my door was like wedged in the mud. So it's the fastest I've ever gotten out of a helicopter, but I climbed over the console, over the collective, and out his door. And again, both uninjured. We shared a hug in the field because we had survived what we thought was pretty traumatic. And then he made a radio call once we were on the ground. He was on the wrong radio channel. We were on a north channel, not a south channel. So that put the whole comm center in like just a total,
panic.
Because it's very soon after that, we shut the radio off. Everybody, me included, was thinking about our fatal crash we had in our detail back in 2005, Star 6 that crashed, and we lost both our TFO as well as our pilot, and severely injured a third deputy that was on board. So that's all I could think about was that, this is it. And we, holy shit, we survived. I think one of the first people to greet me as I was sitting in a patrol car was the sheriff. He was probably, I think, week 1 in the job, and he's standing there with an umbrella over my head, patting me on the back and glad you're alive. Don't worry about the piece of metal and just care about you, which was amazing. Everybody else that came out was the same way. And, if you talk to my partner, he'll say I saved our lives by doing the power check where I did it over the field. I tell him, maybe that's true, but it was 110% my fault that we got to it. We got into it in the first place.
Dude, what is going through your mind when, you're sitting there 400 feet above the ground, just sitting there in a spin? Are you thinking like, dude, we're not getting out of this and this is it? We're just going to plummet out of the sky?
Pretty much. I was like, well, I screwed up. This is it. Right. Cause I knew what I had done, as far as inducing it. And then, afterwards, like, how did this happen? How did we let this happen, kind of thing? Both of us had the same thing. Him on a flight instructor side of it, and me as a wanting to do good and learn the skill and not necessarily thinking like nothing like that would ever happen, but like, holy shit, this just happened. And so, yeah, and just after hitting the ground, like, okay, well, we're okay. We survived. And then it was interesting because I was actually scheduled to take my commercial written test like 2 days later, like that Wednesday. I think it happened on a Sunday. So that Wednesday I was scheduled to take the test, and he was scheduled to go do emergency training in Southern California with a company that we use, that we do emergency training where we like purposely crash land helicopters for an hour and a half in training. So we'll do full down auto rotations and all the emergency procedures that we can't do in our own helicopters. And so he was scheduled to do that. And so we both kind of had a conversation, both with ourselves together as well as other guys in the unit, and they're like, you guys need to go fly. Like, and so he actually, the very next day, we were in the place where we landed, they were unable to get a trailer or a truck out to us because it was soft mud, and we were hundreds of yards both directions from a roadway in this big cow pasture. So they used a Huey helicopter from a commercial lift company to lift it out of the field and
I remember that.
Set it on a trailer.
Yeah.
And so my partner actually flew with that guy
Really?
after the recovery. He flew back to the airport from the scene. He's like, I've got to do it. I got to get in another helicopter and just keep going.
Yeah.
And I was the same way. I was like, and so he flew with him the very next day. Ironically enough, the guy offered him a job, handed him his business card and said, hey, you're the kind of guy we need. You just survived something that most people don't. So give me a call when you retire.
Yeah, dude. I don't know that I'd ever want to get back into a helicopter again after experiencing something like that.
So I took my test on that Wednesday, passed it. And then over the several months, we paused my training, and over several months implemented on ourselves for the most part, remedial training, largely with him as a CFI in riding with our other seasoned pilot CFIs and recognizing, things that students can do, and being distracted as being that TFO, and then having some situation emergency that he needs to respond to from a CFI standpoint. And so they spent several months doing that. And he got put through the ringer. To his credit, he, our seasoned 17,000 hour pilot, put him through,
put him hard on,
put
hard on him, yeah.
Put it hard on him. And it became almost a game at the end with them on causing some type of hey, respond to this. And so it was hugely important and extremely beneficial for him. And then with me doing the same thing with that same CFI, and with him even is going out, we actually went out in very similar conditions and replicated or attempted to replicate what caused what happened. And so he's purposely inducing it. Oh, did it feel like this? And go, yep. Yeah, it felt just like that. Thank you. Yeah, don't do that again.
Having a dog nipping at your ankle, dude. Hey, Mark, did it feel like this?
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude. I don't know that.
So
kudos to you, man.
I'll tell you, it has made me a better pilot, 110%.
I'm sure it has.
And I think now that I was in December of 22. So several years ago now, I was a couple hundred hours. I have almost 2,000 hours now as pilot in command. And I think back on the situation, the positions and the attitudes I've been in now in the helicopter over those 1,000+ hours that I have now. And I still am like, how did I even let myself get in that position now? I can't even attempt to purposely do it anymore, because as you fly something and as you do something longer, running a gun or driving a car or anything, flying a helicopter, the movements become instinctual. Like if I pull this, I've got to push this. If I move this, I've got to move that. And you do it without even thinking about it anymore. And so, I think back to it, I'm just like, man, I don't even know how I even made it happen. And
I'm thankful that you guys aren't dead. I remember when that happened, and I was actually really, really concerned. I mean, you don't know, you're a buddy, you hear the helicopter crash. I'm like, oh my God.
Well, and your mind instantly, everything you see, right, is tragic. We think back to Star 6, and that's where everybody's mind, everybody that showed up, from patrol partners to lieutenants and captains, the sheriff, everybody was around for that incident and knew about it. Everybody, even if they weren't cops during it, they know about it. So that was everybody's first thought.
Yeah.
And then, but thankfully, I mean, the ship's repaired. We finally got it back. It's our nicest of the 3. Just flew it last night, as a matter of fact.
Nice.
And so they were able to fix it. The FAA deemed it or the NTSB, the NTSB didn't even come out, because the way the regs are written, or the FAA determines it, whether it is an actual accident or an incident, is they deemed it an incident because only landing gear was damaged, landing gear or ancillary equipment, and nobody was injured and no other property was damaged. So that's not technically an accident.
Classify that as an incident. So chalk it up to that.
Yeah, and
just an incident, guys.
Yeah. They determined it a hard landing. It was. You talked to me or my partner. It was definitely not a hard landing. It was more than a hard landing. Yeah, but luckily we were moved forward from it. A much better pilot for it, and. Don't want to do it again, though.
Yeah, please don't.
Yeah, no.
0 stars, not recommend.
Well, dude, again, you guys, if you want to take Mike's class, go to shotsfiredtraininggroup.com. I seriously, it is a great class. If you're a patrol guy all the way to anybody in Air Ops, I would recommend taking it.
Absolutely.
Leadership, everybody. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward
Thanks
to
for
it.
coming.
Thank
hit
you
us
guys.
up, dude. Mike, thank you very much.
Would you just tell Mike to hit us up?
No, I said hit us up. Thank you, Mike.
Oh, because it sounded like
Maybe. I don't know. My words.
Hey, Mike, hit us up.
Yeah. hit us up for next time.
Yeah.
No, thank you, man. Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
joining here.
Appreciate it.
And you're hell of a TFO and pilot. You're very good at what you do. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I'm glad that the reputation is out there of not letting people down, or at least somebody thinks I'm good at what I do.
You don't have
what
that
I've put the last
trust me.
almost decade into.
You do not have that reputation. So, anything else?
That's it.
You guys gonna go watch the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I'm walking out.
I think so. I have specific instructions from the kids to stop at the store on the way home
Nice.
All right.
to buy specific things.
We'll get you guys out of here so you can go do that. All right, guys.
All right.
Thank you for watching, and see you on the next show.
See ya.